Oh, sorry.
All right, and we are back with part two here on the Liberty Hour with Zach and Dylan. We were talking about LeBron and if we think he's going to leave after this season. I'm going to go ahead and respond something what Dylan said. He mentioned either the Rockets or the Spurs. Now, here's my thought. If he goes to the Rockets, I think he should only go if the Rockets lose to Golden State. And the reason I say that is if let's say he goes to the Rockets make the finals this year, and I think regardless if they win or lose, especially if they win, I think that looks like a really weak move almost on LeBron's part. And what I mean by that is, how did it look when Kevin Durant joined a 73-win team? How would it look when LeBron joins a 65-win team that either wins the finals or is in contention right there? And then, you have him, which obviously puts it over the edge. Now, you could say, it's close to the same or it's not quite the same. I just think that people would look at it in and of the same if you were to do that. Now, you mentioned the Spurs. That's actually my choice. I think I'd like to see him go there, play under the second best coach of all time and Greg Popovich, arguably the best. And then it would motivate Manu to come back for one more season. You obviously got Parker there and Aldridge. He'd make all those guys better around him. And Gasol. And my thing is, I think regardless if Kawhi stays, if Kawhi stays, it sounds like he's going to get a mega deal from what I've seen some reports. At least the Spurs are trying to push for that. If he stays or leaves, I think LeBron should come, and I think he would immediately be a contender with the Rockets and the Warriors, and it'd make it a really interesting Western Conference. That's just my pick, my choice. What's likely going to happen? Well, probably Philly, or I don't think LA. A lot of people are talking about LA. I don't think LA. I think likely he would go join Philly. And I don't know how I feel about that because I think it would make it just a straight two-horse race between Boston and Philadelphia. But at the same time, we're having that right now with Boston and Cleveland. So I think he would either join San Antonio or Philly. At least that's what I'd like to see. But if the Rockets end up losing to the Warriors, he probably will go to Houston.
I totally agree on that, and I'm kind of banking on my Rockets are the pick for the win this year, but I'm kind of banking on the Warriors making it to the finals just because it's the Warriors. But we'll see. I would be really happy if the Rockets made it, LeBron decides to stay in the East, and then we don't have this. The Warriors have an automatic finals, appearance because they're just the crazy super team. So,
well, one last thing I'll mention on LeBron before we get to the Warriors series. This man, people always say he's the best. Is he, the second best? Is he right behind Jordan or not? I'll tell you one thing. One thing is for sure. He is the best player of all time when it comes to closeout games. When his back is against the wall, there's nobody that's ever been better when it comes to playing the game when you're down and out. Tonight, in a closeout game, if they lost, LeBron's done in Cleveland, 46 points, 9 assists, 11 rebounds. Game 7 of the conference semis against Indiana, 45 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. And that's just this year. And obviously he's had 2 game winners. If we're going back to last year in the 2 games against the Warriors that were closeout games, 31, 11, and 10 in Game 4 that they won. In a Game 5 where they lost, 41 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists. He had the 45-point, 15-rebound, 8-assist game against Boston, the infamous one in 2012. And that's just a few to name. I could keep going down the list, but this man is the best player of all time when it comes to games where your back's against the wall. And that's just something I felt like needed to be said.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like he that's when he starts trying, or I don't know, it's like I don't know if it was after Game 2 or something when they lost to the Celtics, and then he started laughing in the post game, because he was talking about reporters asking questions to Kevin Love or something.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you just lost a playoff game and you're laughing. He's not worried at all, even if losing a game, because he's like, it's all good because when my back's against the wall, I'm gonna turn it on. And I don't know if that's a fault or if that's a trait, or I don't know, but it's crazy. It's amazing, really.
And see, I feel like that's something that gets overlooked in all of sports media. I think I'm going to be fair here. I think the only person I've really heard that's mentioned that point is Nick Wright on First Things First on Fox. I really haven't heard anybody in sports media mention how great of a player LeBron is in closeout games and how big of an impact he really makes. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get on to the next issue here, which has to do with the Warriors series. So last night, as I mentioned in the intro, we lost by 4, 98-94, and so we're going back to Golden State. It looks like Chris Paul is going to be out with the hamstring injury. Looks like the Warriors may have Iguodala. They'll be coming back. And I wanted to ask you guys, what do the Warriors have to do to get this back to Houston and possibly win this series on the road?
You want to go first, Bill?
Yeah, I'll go. I definitely think they have Game 6 easy. I mean, if Chris Paul's been the turning point for the Rockets, I think they're going to mop him up in Game 6, and it's going to come down to Game 7. So, with that being said, if Chris Paul comes back and he's, whatever he is, he's healthy enough to play, I think it's going to be a 50-50 toss-up. It's going to be the Mike D'Antoni, see how many threes they get up and see how many go in. PJ Tucker is going to be huge. Gerald Green is going to be so huge. I love Gerald Green. He's amazing with his little spurts of offensive. It's just crazy. He'll come in for a couple minutes, hit like 2 or 3 fadeaway threes, and play great defense. It's a really awesome series to watch. It's so back and forth. Klay Thompson has been a little off the past couple games, and I guess he's hurt or something. So we'll see. But I think the Warriors are starting to click. I think Steph is gonna just shoot him out the gym, and I see the Warriors in the finals, unfortunately, but my pick is still the Rockets because I like the Rockets, and I'm kind of against the big super team that's just they're so good, and Kevin Durant joined them, and
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, but yeah, I think what the Warriors have to do is just share the ball. There was a stat that was like the amount of isolations they've had and the kind of the ball stopping plays that they've had is unlike Warriors basketball. And I don't know if that has to do with Iggy being hurt or the flow is just not there or something. But the Warriors can win if KD decides to take a few shots in the final part of the game, because I think Steph isn't that guy that's gonna, with 3 minutes left, he's not that LeBron guy where he's gonna say, just give me the ball and I'll make some shots to win the game. He's that guy that's like he'll have 0 points and then all of a sudden he'll hit 5 straight threes and do 2 straight floaters and he'll have 20 and then all of a sudden the Warriors are up by 20 and the game's over. So he's not that guy that's gonna clutch the game out. He's that guy he can just spurt ability. He can just widen the gap of the game incredibly well. And he's done that. And the thing is, when he's done that the past few games, he's been non-existent for the fourth quarter. He'll go on his run in the third, and he'll be non-existent in the fourth. And then if he's non-existent in the fourth, and KD's not taking a shot in the fourth, then who's scoring? I think just go back to playing their pass, shoot a three, and I don't think we should be worried about KD, because I think he's closed out enough games in his lifetime to where this isn't affecting him. So just get back to sharing the ball, and Steph Curry's got to hit some threes to get him ahead, and I think Durant just has to step up in the crunch time, and then they'll be fine.
Well, see, what I found really interesting about what you just said is, you mentioned, Curry, can go from 0 points and hit 5 threes like that. And what that shows me, is he's been a pretty streaky scorer in this series. And what I find really interesting is usually that seems like that's Klay when it comes to the playoffs. And Curry has been that streaky player. But, something about Curry is I've never, as much of a fan of Curry that I am, I've never really found Curry as a a consistent player when it comes to a full year in the playoffs. He's had his faults and definitely some series in the past. I think you could definitely put a lot of the blame of why the Warriors lost in 2016 on Steph's shoulders for that series. He played awful. And, he needs to step up for sure. But I think, in my opinion, there's a couple of things. One is the fact of the Warriors' ineptitude to play defense when it comes to doing penetration. And part of that blame, I honestly put on Steve Kerr. And the reason I put it on Kerr is you have an elite, I'm not going to say elite, but you have a very good shot blocker and a great defender, and you don't even play him. He played great in the regular season, and he didn't even play him for 6 minutes. The man I'm mentioning is a person that you would have never thought of 2 years ago. It's a person by the name of JaVale McGee. He has been a great defender all season. He's been a good shot blocker, and they need him down low, in my opinion, to stop penetration. But the second person who I would put it on, I know you said that we shouldn't worry about him, but I'm sorry, I got to put it on him for how much he's getting paid and what his expectations are. It's Kevin Durant. And the reason I put it on him is because he goes missing in the fourth quarter. In this series, Kevin Durant has averaged in the fourth quarter 3.6 points per game in the fourth quarter. He has gone 18% from the field and 15% from three. That's inexcusable. That's absolutely inexcusable. You need to be better if you're going to be the second best player in the world. You come to a team to join them to win a championship, to win championships. You need to be better. That's just not something that I'm going to look past. And Kevin Durant needs to step up. In situations where he's an ISO ball, at times he needs to get the ball out of his hands and get it to open shooters and Curry and Clay, like you were mentioning. And I think that this has definitely been one of the big keys why they've lost their last two games specifically.
Yeah, when I was saying that we shouldn't worry about Durant, as I was referring to late, I think in Game 6 he'll play good. I don't think that he's rattled or anything, but no, for sure the blame is on Durant. He's been sucking, and when I said don't worry about him, I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's too good to not bounce back.
My apologies. I actually got the stat wrong. It's 3.4 points per game in the fourth quarter, 18% from the field, 12% from the three-point line. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, I don't know. With Kevin Durant, the series that really made me fall out of love with Kevin Durant was when he was up 3-1 to the Warriors and he choked away 3 straight games.
Right.
And ever since then, and that was when he had a lot of pressure on him. He was the man and he had to make it happen, and he didn't. He just simply didn't. And this past year where he won with the Warriors, there was really no pressure on him. He just had, he has the greatest team around him already. And so this year you have the Rockets who stacked their lineup to match them with the 3-point shooting. And now all of a sudden, here's the pressure on Kevin Durant again. Steph Curry isn't that MVP season, like you said. He hasn't been the true Steph Curry that we all think of in the playoffs. And so we'll see. It's going to be a big game for Kevin Durant. It's going to really prove that he's going to have to prove to me that he's really got the killer in him and he's not just an extremely talented player.
Good point.
Yeah. I will say in that series back in 2016 against the Warriors, he was pretty terrible in 5 and 6. He showed up in Game 7. But yeah, definitely 5 and 6. It was definitely a big part. Obviously, Klay Thompson hitting a ton of shots in Game 6 too, but he definitely did not play like himself in those 2 games for sure. All right, cool. So with all that being said, I'm going to take... we're going to be back on here in a couple minutes. I'm going to take a little break. We're going to be back on, talk about some Kings basketball. They got the second pick in the NBA draft, and we're going to talk about who they should take and why. And we will also, a little bit later in the show, be talking about the NFL National Anthem policy. And so we'll be right back with you guys here on the Liberty Hour, and we'll be right back.